Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the TG webinar series. Today's presentation is taking PLL to the next level. My name is Sarah Dennis, and as always, I will be hosting today. If you have any questions about Timmons Group or our webinar series, please don't hesitate to contact me. And now for a little webinar housekeeping. All attendees will be muted upon entry today, and we'll be taking questions through the chat and question toolbars in your webinar interface. Feel free to type them in at any time, and we'll probably break in and let somebody handle them as we go, just to change things up a little bit. We are also recording this webinar, and we'll be posting it to our website at timmons.com, and you'll be notified when it's up. Today's webinar will be presented by Michael Edwards, Project Manager in our Asset Management Division, as well as Chad Phillips, our Client Manager for Asset Management. But before we get started with that presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Ron Butcher, our Director of Asset Management here at Timmons Group, also known as the man with the soulful voice. So welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, so today we're going to talk about tools that we put together for Cityworks Server Permitting Licensing Land, better known as PLL. And basically what this is, it's tools that we developed for a client who was migrating from Hanson into Cityworks. They had a lot of custom triggers in there, and we needed to go through and push it into PLL in such a way that it was, an equivalent environment. Okay, go to the next slide. All right, so today, as Sarah said, the presentation team, myself, I'm the Director of Asset Management here at Timmons Group. We have Chad Phillips here, who's going to be going through and kind of do the intro on the client side. And he is a client manager for Cityworks. And then or for Timmons Group, and then finally Michael Edwards, who's pretty much the technical effort behind the work that we did with this client. And then to start us off, as I like to do, we're going to go with a little joke, and at the end of this is going to be a little questionnaire on whether or not you like my joke. So, and we're going to do two of them today because this is an extra special Thursday. So, Chad, what did one ocean say to the other ocean?
I don't know, Ron. What did they say?
Nothing. They just waved. All right. And then for all of you that are into parachuting, I have for sale a parachute. I've only used it once, never opened. With that, I turn it over to Chad, where he will go into the actual background, and then Michael is going to be going through and demoing these tools for you live.
All right, thanks, Ron, for the introductions and getting us off on the right foot. So let's start by giving you some background and history on the client and the implementation that led to the development of these tools that we're going to be demoing later. This client was a long-time Hanson implementation, and over the years, the client had developed hundreds of triggers, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 triggers, to make Hanson meet their highly customized workflow for permitting. Through a careful evaluation process, the client decided they wanted to replace Hanson with a new permitting system. The new system they chose was the Cityworks Permitting Licensing Land, also known as Cityworks PLL. While Cityworks PLL met many of their highly customized workflows out of the box, there was still a need to enhance PLL to fully meet all of their requirements. So our challenge was to figure out a way to enhance PLL core functionality to meet the needs of the client. So our solution was to develop a set of specific tools that would extend the Cityworks PLL capabilities by utilizing the Cityworks APIs, stored procedures, utilizing JavaScript injection, and triggers. These tools were built in a manner that reduced the customizations to a handful of tools that were configurable and would make future maintenance simple. So let's talk a little bit about the process for how we accomplished the development of these tools. We utilized a modified Agile development process that allowed us to deliver functionality as we developed the tools. So step one in the process was obviously to identify all the requirements by analyzing all the triggers previously developed in the Hanson system. Once that was complete, we did a second analysis of additional functionality needed beyond what was previously developed. Once we had all the requirements gathered and approved by the client, we entered into biweekly sprints where we would identify a set of requirements that we would develop and deliver as functioning tools at the end of the sprint. We continued this sprint cycle until all the requirements had been developed and signed off on. The process resulted in a complete suite of tools for PLL that met the client's requirements, but also a set of tools that we could deploy in any PLL implementation. So without any further ado, I am going to pass the presentation off to Michael Edwards so he can demonstrate a handful of these amazing tools. And just a reminder that we will be taking questions throughout the demo, so ask away and we will stop and answer questions as they come in. So Michael, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. So as a part of the demo today, we're going to step through a handful of these tools. Just a few of them that we can see right in front of us. We'll demonstrate populating case data from your map service, also how to adjust an inspector's daily schedule through your inbox, also demonstrate automatically assigning inspectors to tasks from a feature class that's been established in your map service. We can reassign inspections through the inbox in a bulk manner. We'll show you that. We'll take a look at parent-child relationships and how they can be extended in Cityworks, and also show an example of how you can assign contractors and people as primary applicants. And there'll be a few other tools sprinkled in as we go through the demo. So let me pull out of this PowerPoint and fire up our Cityworks. So the first step here today will be creating a commercial new building permit. And as we create that permit, we will watch the tools come into play. So I'll create a commercial new building permit, and we'll give it a second to pull up. All right, so with our permit created, we can look through this summary page and see that it's really sparse, right? There's not a lot going on here. We don't have an address, we don't have a contractor, any people, any information into our data group. None of our tasks have been completed, and we have both city and county fees. So this implementation was multi-jurisdictional, so we had both county and city. So we needed a way to determine the difference between county and city fees for accounting purposes. So by adding an address, we will start to see how these tools begin to work. So I'll go ahead and use our geocoder, locate an address here. Those of you who use PLL will be pretty familiar with this process. I'll select the address. Looks like I grabbed a base in there. We will add the address to the case. I'm adding both the address point and the parcel just to grab as much information as possible. And I'll close the map out. We won't be needing that anymore. And we'll go back to our summary page. And we will see a number of changes have happened. So by adding the address, it kicks off a number of our tools that are driven by the map service. You'll see that the property owner has been pulled from the parcel and assigned an appropriate roll code. We've also populated a number of case data items, just to name a few: the zoning, map page, jurisdiction, floodplain information, even block, lot, and PIN. You'll also see that conditions have been added to the case based on the location. So this location is in a beltway and also in a floodplain. So we know that, and we can require that before issuance this has at least been approved by a supervisor or someone that's managing this permit. Scrolling down a little bit further on our summary screen, you'll see that fees have been removed. So I've effectively added an address within the city limits, and all county fees have been removed from the case. So once we add the address, typical workflow here would be to go into the data group and fill out that information. So a lot of this information has already been populated from our map service, which is great because it does eliminate duplicate data entry, or possibly typing in the wrong numbers, or coming back and checking and knowing that your map service is the system of record for this data. It's really showing that you can pull it in just from your map service without any concerns there. Looking at the remainder of the data group, you'll see that this field is highlighted in a pink color, And those of you who use Cityworks AMS may be familiar with how required fields work in AMS. We've also brought that logic into PLL, where we are requiring that different fields be entered in at the time of saving your case data. Scrolling down the case data a little further, we'll see that inspectors have also been assigned.
We had a question come in. With the 2015 Cityworks update, are you able to geocode an address to a PLL case without using the map?
Geocode an address. I know that it's working for AMS. I have not tested that fully for 2015. That's probably a good question to bring up when we're talking about these tools. They've all been developed for Cityworks 2014 at this time, and we'll be extending these tools into 2015, however. Great, so jumping back into the case data, you'll see that these building inspectors, zoning inspectors, and erosion control inspectors were all assigned. And I'm going to add a square footage just to show off another one of our tools. And for those of you out there who are using PLL and are calculating your ICC building valuations, that's a tool we've built into this customization, where by entering the square footage, construction type, and primary use group, we can effectively calculate the building value based on the ICC criteria. I'm going to go ahead and put in a declared building value here and demonstrate how that works. So I believe I've filled out all my required fields. Yes, so I'll go ahead and save the case. So we'll have populated our case data at this time. We'll jump back to our summary page, and scrolling down, what you'll notice is that a calculated building value has now been created here, and that is using a combination of both our square footage, construction type, and primary use group. And that's a pretty easy setup, so that when these are updated every 6 months, all you have to do is import the table with the figures on it, and the tool will calculate. So after the data group, we'll dive into the fees a little bit here, and what you'll notice is that our commercial new building fee is now based off our calculated values. So one of the requirements for this client was to charge the fee based on whatever was higher, the calculated value or the declared value. So similar to how we removed fees for the address, we do the same thing here, and we look at calculated versus declared building values and assign the fees as they follow. I'm going to go to the workflow now and complete the first task. And this is a plan submittal checklist, just confirming that all the details required for this permit have been submitted. And I'll go ahead and close that and accept. So I'll go ahead and try to complete this plan review fees, and we'll see that that's impossible for me at this time. I'm not able to complete this task because the plan review fee has not been paid. This is one of our tools that we've built in to restrict workflow actions based on requirements throughout the case. One of these is based around the payment of fees. So let me go back and pay this plan review fee, and we'll be able to progress. Jumping back to the workflow, we will see that the plan review fees paid task has been completed automatically once the plan review fees are paid. And this really works well because, often clients are using a cashiering system or a point of sale system where the fees will be paid via an integration, and the users may not necessarily know when those fees are paid, but the reviews will become available as soon as that integration is connected and the plan review fees are paid. From here, the building review tasks don't really have any tools in them, so I'm going to go ahead and delete these, and we can move forward in the workflow.
We did have a question asked about whether these tools were configurable while we're waiting.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that kind of steps into how are these tools developed. These tools are a combination in some respects of JavaScript injection, also database objects, They're fairly configurable, however, they are built custom for this client. You know, the great thing about most of these tools is that we see them solving issues that a lot of our clients have. So while they may not be configurable, the logic is largely the same across jurisdictions. Okay, great. So we'll continue moving through the workflow and take a look at many of our other tools. Looks like I can't access the administrative review because no primary applicant is selected. So one of the requirements here is that a primary applicant would be identified by the time of administrative review. So going back to the people, you'll see that we do have a property owner that was added via the map services parcel layer. We'll also see we don't have a contractor, so I'll add a contractor at this time just so we can see how that works. A general building contractor for this commercial case. Let me search one. So we'll submit and we will save. And we now have our contractor in here. So we both have a contractor and a people role. Now, one of these is required to be a primary applicant, so I'll show you a little bit how that works. And what we've done is build in a simple button, set as primary applicant. You say OK, and we'll save. So this is a contractor that I'm able to set as a primary applicant. If you notice this little P over here, that lets us know that this contractor has been identified as a primary applicant. I can go back to the people role, and I'll see that that's a property owner. Now, if, for instance, maybe I make the contractor a primary applicant during the review stage, and by the time the permit's ready to be issued, there's been a change, and now the property owner is the primary applicant. I'm not sure how often this does happen, but if it does, the user could simply go in here, set primary applicant, and hit save, and you see the role code would adjust to primary applicant. So it really is a simple way to differentiate your people, and without having to re-enter the people twice. Going back to the workflow, I should be able to now complete this task, give it a status of approved, and we'll step forward. So plans delivered and completed. I'll attempt to issue this, but it looks like all fees must be paid, all conditions must be completed. So I will go over and complete my conditions. I'll go ahead and save that, and we'll go over to our fees and make a payment on our fees so that we can progress. Let me confirm. Yep, it's the right amount from the calculation. So we'll go ahead and make this payment. We'll pay via check this time, and we'll save. Right. Make sure our payments were successful, and we'll go to our workflow. Looks like one of these fees isn't summing correctly. Just so we can move forward, I'll go ahead and not sure what's going on there, but we will go take a look at this example again, and we'll go back to our administrative review here. And we'll go ahead and waive these just to move forward. Oh, condition. Sorry about that. All right. met all the requirements for issuance of the permit. So now is where the real fun begins. In the inspection section, we've built in a number of our custom tools, and these start to involve the inbox, which is something we're pretty proud of. So looking at a footing inspection, I'll go ahead and schedule this. We'll see that Glenn Johnson has been assigned to this permit, or inspection rather. We'll schedule this for 3 o'clock, so coming up pretty soon. We'll go ahead and schedule a foundation inspection as well. And maybe we'll schedule a third one just for good measure here. Each an hour apart, so Glenn's got a pretty busy afternoon. So once the inspections are scheduled, we can view those now in our inbox. So I'm going to jump back to the inbox and go over a few of these tools. One of them is the inspection scheduler. So what this does is it allows Glenn Johnson to go in here and manage his workday. So as we can see here, if I'm Glenn, I've got a handful. I've got 5 inspections assigned for me today. That's a pretty good workload, and perhaps I have an idea of how I want to handle these. They're all at the same location, so maybe that's not a concern for me today, but if they were at a handful of locations, I may want to come up with a certain route. So what I can do is I can toggle these inspections between AM and PM. If you'll see that, we'll move that slab to the bottom. I can also give this a PM and push it back down. These are moving dynamically. So if I want to toggle between a morning inspection or an afternoon inspection, this gives me that functionality. I can also move them down in order and view these inspections in my inbox in any order that I want to. I can also even cancel it. If there's just too much today and I can't make it, I can go ahead and cancel that inspection and remove it from the list. An additional inbox inspection functionality would be the bulk reassignment. This one is very useful for supervisors, especially if you're managing the workload for inspectors, where you can say, okay, Glenn, wow, you've got a lot of inspections assigned this week, and all of a sudden he's sick. So who can I give these inspections to? I know that this footing, this slab, and this framing inspection can all be done by Michael Alexander over here, my prospective inspector. And all I simply have to do is hit reassign, and now these 3 inspections have been assigned to Michael Alexander. And we can go and view that in our summary page for our permit. So 139, the framing inspection. And we'll see Michael Alexander as the new assigned to for this inspection.
We had a question come in while you were presenting that one. Is anyone currently using these tools now?
Yes, this is Chad Phillips. We currently have 2 clients that are utilizing these tools, one being the City of Winston-Salem and the other being the City of Fayetteville. They are in testing procedures as of now, but they are working through and should be live here shortly.
Great, that's an excellent question. Thank you. One of the other interesting functionality we've built into the bulk reassignment of inspections is simply that it allows you, rather than going directly to a case, to alter your inspection times. So right now it's 2:28, but if I know that the scheduled start is actually going to be something more like 4 o'clock, I can simply save that and adjust my timing to my scheduled start date for that inspection. So that can be completed through this tool as well. Okay, so we'll go back to our case and continue to complete our inspections. I'll pass. And as we move through these inspections, we'll see that there are a handful of custom tools that we built in here at the end. Primarily, the custom tool that we've identified is one that just eliminates duplicate data entry here, and it allows us to issue the permit automatically if all fees are paid, all conditions are complete, and the final inspection has been completed. So as you all have seen, before I issued the permit, I was forced to pay all the fees. I was forced to complete all the conditions. Oftentimes, additional fees would be incurred during the inspection process, or more conditions would be added. If that was the case, the user would have to complete those again during this inspection process. In our example, of course, I haven't had to add any of those conditions. I'll go ahead and add one just to show you all how that works. Conditions must be completed. I'll go ahead and complete this. And as you can see, if all conditions are met, the issue certificate of occupancy will occur automatically. Again, this just allows your inspectors and permit technicians to work in Cityworks without having to, enter in data or complete multiple tasks. But yet we still get a timestamp and a result code for our issuance of the certificate of occupancy, and allows us to track that CO better in the database, and that really helps with reporting and all sorts of stuff. We'll go back to one of the permits that we haven't issued yet. That would be 142. And we will go ahead and add a child permit to that case. And to do that, for some of the customizations, we've built in checkboxes here at the bottom to let us know that this user is planning to complete that work. So I've added an electrical permit here. Go back to our summary tab, and I'll go ahead and create that related child work activity. So as you can see, beltway and block, our conditions from our parent, our address, property owners, all that information. Even our fees are now based on our jurisdiction as well. And we'll go ahead and go ahead and make a payment here. And we'll go back to our workflow. No primary applicant. This will be a refresher on some of the tools I demonstrated just a few minutes ago. So we'll set our primary applicant, we'll hit save. We'll go back to our workflow. I think we'll have to complete our conditions. And this is one of the customizations that we've done. So based on the address point, if I've created a trade permit like this electrical one, if it wasn't linked, it would give me the option to do so now. So it's letting me know, hey, there are other open permits on that same parcel. Do you want to link these two? I can say okay, and it'll create a link between that permit. I can go ahead and issue now, and I'll have 2 inspections available. I'm going to go ahead and fail some of these because, not every inspection passes so easily as on our building case, and we'll go take a look at our fees. What you'll notice is that an electrical extra trip charge has been added. One of our customizations is that based on 2 failed inspections, we will add a extra trip charge. I know that's probably a pretty common practice for folks out there, that you may, if inspection fails multiple times, you're going to go ahead and charge a fee to that contractor or that primary applicant. So we'll go ahead and get this permit to the final inspection stage, but we won't final that just yet. We'll go back to our building permit and see, okay, looks like we've issued our permit so far. We can go ahead and complete some of these inspections. And I'll go ahead and delete some of these too, because this is going to show you the same functionality as our last case. And we'll delete these. And I guess we'll complete that one. And our final inspection, we're going to go ahead and pass complete this, and it won't issue the certificate of occupancy. And that is because the child permit has not yet been finalized amongst other conditions. So I'll go back and final that child permit. Ooh, my fees. Oh, that's fun. For those of you who are using Cityworks PLL, you may have seen this screen before. We'll go back to our case, and looks like we're having a little trouble with our fee calculation here with our extra trip charge.
How do you know when a demo is live?
Great question, Sarah. Typically when an error happens, you know that it's live, right? Practice 100 times. Oh, that's fun. All right, so we'll go back to our parent case here. That was 142. Go to our workflow, and I'll have to add in a condition here. Some of you may be wondering about these conditions here. These are Department of Commerce codes that have been built into the system to track those for reporting purposes. Looks like it's still wanting me to complete that child permit, just to show that these tools really do work, but we're having a little issue with our fees right now. So. All right, there we go. I was able to get it when I waived the fee. Sorry about that. let me complete this condition, and we will be able to progress. And we'll see now that we have a fully issued CO on that permit. Took me a little bit longer than I expected, but I got there eventually, so thank you all for your patience. So that really concludes most of our tools here today. Really, like we started out, they do just provide an extension on some of the logic that's already built into Cityworks PLL, adding some rules and conditions that may be unique to your jurisdiction, and allowing parent and child permits to talk to each other, really, in a two-way communication. So I guess we will now open it up to questions from you all, whether they be in general about our processes or any of the tools that you've seen today.
All right, you asked for it. Are you ready?
Yeah, fire away.
It's a really broad one here. So, what technology are you using?
Wow. Well, aside from the obvious, we are using database objects, both triggers and store procedures, and using JavaScript injection to create a lot of our pop-ups and allow users to have that interaction with the website.
That was followed up with what version of Cityworks does this work on?
Yeah, the specific example we're looking at now is 2014 SP5. These tools all work for 2014 as we speak, and we're in the process of bringing them up to 2015. Though, for the most part, nothing has really changed that much, especially on the database side. There hasn't been a number of changes between the two, so we really don't anticipate much time there.
Okay, I'm going to hope that you know what this one means. Do any of these tools work with the portal?
Yes, many of these tools do interact with the Timmons group portal that we developed over the past year or so, and are rolling out a full out-of-the-box portal solution here. If some of you were on our webinar in March, we demonstrated the PLL portal there, and you can go back and find that webinar along with this webinar after it's posted. But yes, many of them do interact, especially the parent-child relationships, because through the portal we developed initially, as kind of like our first cut at this, we were just allowing child trade permits. So we were having to understand the logic of linking those permits, verifying that certain things that happened on the parent permit to allow creation of that child or issuance of that child. So we had to integrate a lot of these tools into our portal, and we found that a lot of people were very receptive to them, so we built them out into the core application and both the portal as we can.
All right. Ooh, I'm going to skip to this one. Do any of these tools work in field mode, for example, the inspector schedule?
Yes, all of these tools are built to work seamlessly with field mode. There hasn't been any change. We did learn as we built these out that the JavaScript injection had to be worked on a little bit in field mode, as you might imagine. Screen size may be different, that sort of thing. But as far as pulling information from the address or all the workflow conditions, none of that is affected by field mode. But that's a great question.
Are any Cityworks APIs required for these tools?
No, actually these tools do not leverage any APIs, so there's no additional licensing costs after the implementation of these tools. Now the portal, that's a different story, but these tools within the core application do not leverage any APIs.
All right, folks, we got one more question unless I see some more come in. see. Was the autofill of data group items from a map service or customization out of the box? I think you need to switch that, but
That was not out of the box. These tools, like I said, were built for 2014, and a lot of that information was not available from the map service. Now, if you're working in AMS, you'll know that within Designer there is the option to add a number of fields, such as district or gosh, maybe map number. There's a handful of things. Shop field, yeah. In AMS you can add. PLL, that functionality is not as complete, at least in 2014. We do look forward to leaning on Cityworks a little bit more in 2015 for some of this work. But when we developed these, that's right, this was a custom solution to draw information from the map service.
are custom tools ever negatively impacted by updates?
Well, I hate to say never, but it is our goal to build these both as simply as possible and and open with Cityworks, right? So we're constantly in communication when developing these kind of tools, talking to Cityworks and their team to always stay in the loop and be sure that we're not doing something that's going to break in the next update. That's a great question. If you're thinking about the APIs, these integrations, shouldn't typically update, which is why you break and upgrade, which is why you would want to use APIs. But if you're working directly within the core application, you wouldn't leverage those APIs, so there would be that risk that something could potentially change in your database. But really, these are using core functionality and core tables and fields. None of these tools are working on the periphery of Cityworks, so I don't imagine that really being a problem in upgrades.
How are these customers tracking this work before this system or these tools? I think it means tools.
Yeah, gosh, well, I think, Chad may have mentioned earlier in the PowerPoint that this specific client had several hundred triggers in a Hansen database. So how are they tracking this information? They were building custom triggers and database objects to create this functionality. And our task was to mimic but also improve and lean on Cityworks' improved functionality to kind of remove some, but of course, obviously we had to build some extra ones. So what they were doing is building custom triggers, not all that different than what we've done here.
All right, now this one looks like the last question unless I see some more come in. So if you have any you're waiting on, now's the time. I noticed that when first bringing over an address to a case that the PIN was populated. Was this a Timmons customization or label change or utilizing XML and Cityworks customization?
Someone out there is pretty sharp. We used an XML customization to alter the PIN, right, to make it a PIN, but the parcel number is being populated from the feature class, the parcel feature class in the map service. So I guess a combination of the two.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I think we've worn Michael out. We need to give him a break. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact anyone through email. If you only have my contact information, that's fine. I will hook you up with whoever you need to talk to. Ron, is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, Sarah, I think first of all, hopefully you all got something out of this presentation today. You can contact us at any time. We can give you additional information, even talk about some of the other tools, because this is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other tools that we created, but we just wanted to go through highlights, some of the ones that I think, had the best chance of affecting you all in a positive manner. But like I said, you can contact us at any time. Plus, as Sarah said, we both have the PLL portal, as well as this webinar is going to be loaded up on our website. So if you want to go through and review it again. And then with that, I just wish everybody to have a wonderful and safe long weekend. All right. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for attending. Have a great afternoon.